Welcome to another weekly featured business brought to you by Visibility Impact and your host, James Moffat, where he will gracefully take our featured guest on a personal and business journey and stories that will inspire, educate, and engage you.
Hello, and welcome to another Friday Featured Business brought to you by Visibility Impact and your host, myself, James Moffat. Today we have our 103rd guest. Now, I'm going to try and pronounce your name. So, Sarah, I've got that bit right, I guess, although some people might say Sarah. So if I can ask you to just to introduce your name and where you are living at the moment and where you're from.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me, James. I'm Sarah Evangeline, and I am in Canada. Canada's very big. I'm in Ontario, which is almost in the middle of the country. And I'm living in Hamilton, Ontario, which is close to Toronto. And I'm originally from Chatham, which is a few hours away from here and a very small town. So I moved to a bigger town and very happy here.
Okay, so thank you very much for being our 103rd guest, and got an exciting journey to go through. So we're going to take you down memory lane from childhood to where you are now, and you can feel free to share. This is recorded, so I mean, if anyone's watching the recording, you can reach out to Sarah and others afterwards. And it will all be put on a YouTube channel as well that I'll give you the link to afterwards. And Sarah, you can share your links if people want to follow up, connect with you, or follow any of your programs and stuff that you do. So without further ado, let's get started. So if Emily joins, she's our regular singer, then we'll just have a pause and then she can sing. If she doesn't join, then no worries. Oh, Sarah, do you sing?
Pardon me?
Do you sing?
I used to, not anymore at all. No.
Because when Gavin was on the show, like he sang and played the guitar. We've
awesome.
had a few. Boyan, we asked him not to sing, right? But anyway,
but I'd love to.
He would like to. So, Sarah, do you play any instruments, by the way?
Again, I used to be a lot into instruments. My mom is a music teacher, so I played piano. I have played clarinet. I have played trombone. I played baritone. I played the trumpet, but like I don't play anymore. It's probably been 10 years. And
wow.
Piano. I used to play piano as well. So yeah.
Oh, so not much then.
Not much, but I mean, I wouldn't be able to just pick it up and play.
Yeah.
Why did you walk away from it? Sorry, that's a burning question after all that. Why?
Sorry, what's your question?
Why did you walk away from playing music?
I think because it wasn't enjoyable anymore. It was more forced. Like I had to do it. And my mom is super, super musical. And I'm musical, but I have to work really, really hard on it. And I think I was practicing like 2 or 3 hours a day to get my piano exam done. And I was actually getting a carpal tunnel with my fingers. And so when I was done, I was just like, I don't want to be doing this anymore. It's my choice. And I don't really have any regrets, but I do think music is such a good, it's such a good therapy. I love music. I love listening to music, but I think it got to the point where it was too forced, and then I kind of resented it. Yeah. Do you play anything else besides the guitar?
Shakuhachi flutes. But I suck. I was really, for me, it was the most unnatural thing ever. It took me 20 years to actually get semi-good. It's kind of falling into place now, but it's such a journey. I wanted it so bad. That's why I was quite curious. But I get that thing of being pressured into something, and then it's not fun, and it's a different thing. It's not self-expression. It's a chore.
I used to play guitar as well. I used to play guitar as well in my childhood, and I had some similar experience. It was, from one side, I like it, but then it was a lot of study and a lot of intense, so it was not too much pleasure. Now my daughter is studying, but it's much more practical, let's say. They also study, but it's much more enjoyable. So maybe this was the difference that was for me in my so. And I'd love to sing, but Jamie's so bad and not let me. Okay.
Yeah, you're not allowed to sing. We're encouraging our kids to play instruments as well. So my eldest son, who's 9, he's gifted at the piano. So we try different lessons with the kids and different instruments and things. And he got on the piano, never tried it before. And the teacher said, like, just with one hand, could you copy me and play that? So he did. He thought, well, he's pretty good. So then she used 2 hands and he said, copy it. And he did with 2 hands. He said, wow, this kid is gifted. And yeah, a year later, I mean, he's playing the most complicated music with 2 hands, not even looking. He's crossing his hands over, and I think, wow, if only I could. I mean, I'm still 1 finger kind of chopsticks and stuff like that. Terrible. So yeah, if you find your gift, then definitely use it. I'm still looking for mine. I mean, I'm sure there's something in there. Maybe it's bagpipes, right? Because I love the sound of the bagpipes, but I've never actually tried. So I should give it a whirl. But anyway, moving on. So Sarah, have you got any siblings?
I do. I have 2 brothers. They're twins, and it was their birthday a couple days ago. So
wow, congratulations. Right. We have twins also. We've had
that's so fun.
We have a few guests that have got twins. So I have a boy and a girl that are twins. So they're both 6. So yeah, I just dropped them off at the play area. So if they come and disturb me, you might see them, right? Which they normally burst through the door. When I say recording on, they burst through the door because they want to come on the show, right? So, but they're 6 and wonderful. But Pete, who's been a guest, he's in Atlanta. He's got 2 twin daughters. I mean, they're off finished university now. So I mean, they're older, but a few people have had twins on the show. So what was it like? Are they younger or older, the twins?
They're younger. Sometimes they like to act like they're older, but they're younger. They're great though. We played a lot together, and like I can look at them and say they're my friends. They're really, really good guys. And yeah, they're living far away. They're both married. One is living up north in Canada, and him and his wife are pastors, and they run a church up there. And then the other one, he lives back in my hometown, and he's he's studying to become a paramedic, and him and his wife are both in the medical field. And so they're trying to get that all sorted with Canada being the way it is. But yeah, they're both great. They're working hard and really good at what they're doing. So
are they identical twins?
Yeah, they're identical, but I don't like, they look so different to me now. I like, one has glasses, one doesn't. They have different facial hair, stuff like that, where they don't look alike. They look like brothers, but they don't look like twins. But then I still have girlfriends that I've known for 10 years, 20 years, and they're like, who's who, you know? But
they didn't, when they were younger, play games with each other's respective girlfriends, right? They said, no. I can't go on a date tonight. Would you go on my date with me, for me, right? And then the other one would go, and the girlfriend would not know the difference.
No, but I would, when we were getting babysat, I would tell the babysitter the opposite names. So then she would be calling one, like their names are Mark and Luke. She'd be calling them the opposite names, and they'd say, no, I'm Luke, or I'm Mark. And the babysitter would believe me. And it would happen multiple times, and it was lots of fun. So
yeah, no, some twins, I mean, identical twins, I mean, the fact that they are identical, I mean, I can't tell the difference. We have 2 twin girls that are neighbors as well, and I can't tell the difference with them. And people like call them by the right names. I think, well, it's the same one to me, right? Right. But anyway, we move on, right? So let's just have a look at maybe your childhood. So kind of what things did you like growing up as a kid?
Oh man. I really liked playing in the forest. My brothers and I, we would go in there and play make-believe, and we had a forest in our backyard, which was awesome because then we moved and we still had a forest in our backyard, which is great. Like, I mean, I'm still part of the generation that didn't have a cell phone till after high school. So, lots of playing outside, just we had, what I loved is we had neighbors from other cultures. We had one neighbor from Poland. I can't remember where the other neighbor was from, but there was like 5 or 6 of us, and they were from European countries. I felt like we could go over to each other's houses and not have an appointment, things like that, which I think we've gotten so far away from, at least in Canada. Just playing outside, really, that's what's coming to my mind.
Yeah, talking about Canada, we've had a few guests from Canada, but we had one in particular, Barbara, and she couldn't get back into Canada, so she ended up going to Mexico. So now she lives in Mexico. But
yeah, I thought about moving to Mexico, to be honest.
A very interesting story. And anyway, that's why you should listen back to some of the previous guests, but we'll make it easy for people because we're creating a platform that will just be a click on the profile and then you'll know all about them. So, cool. Because there's been, you've been the 103rd guest. There's 102 excellent stories to hear. And some fantastic people. When you hear like Gavin's story and Boyan's story, you really want to connect with people. Yeah. Because I try to find kind of like-minded people. So anyway, growing up, you're not the first one to say about kind of nature and the forest and things like that. I think as kids, we all loved that. We all loved being outside. And I think maybe that's a generation thing as well. Nowadays, we try to get the kids to go out and they'd rather watch TV and iPads and computer games and crap like that. But when they do go out in the forest, they love it. It's just that we have to encourage them to get out there more often and not have to force them to do it, but actually them to see the beauty. So anyway, so you also, you're a writer. So on your travels, you're writing kind of a blog or something, or what was it you were writing?
I was writing a blog. Blogging was really big when I was traveling. Also just journaling. Journaling is such a therapeutic way of self-expression, releasing things that are going on that you can't really explain, the subconscious coming into the consciousness. And so I think it just started out writing a blurb here or there. And then it was when I got home from my travels, I was like, I need to turn this into a book. So I think it took a couple years. And I traveled for that summer, and that's really when I started. And then, I would go home, and it was like every few months I would get an itch to like go somewhere. And so when I would go somewhere new, it just kind of started up again. And it was kind of, I don't know, drawn to it while I was away. It was a completely different environment, atmosphere. And I've been told now, like, that I'm getting to know my birth chart and everything, that I thrive in different cultures and different, because I wasn't someone that was like, it wasn't a big deal to be in the line of the Eiffel Tower or to do something like the tourists. I wanted to be immersed in the culture of the new place I was in. And it inspired me to write. So.
Right. So when you are talking about traveling, so when you first started venturing out traveling, as a kind of a teenager, I wanted to go on these teenage holidays and not go necessarily with your parents anymore, like when you first go skiing and stuff like that. So, and then after that, it became the summer holidays, and then it was always holidays with friends. So were you holidaying and doing these adventures with other people, or were you on your own?
A mixture. I went to Turkey and Greece on my own, but I was with a group, if that makes sense. I just didn't know anyone until I got there, and did some traveling with family. We have connections and family in the UK, and the church I did grow up in, I don't go anymore, but the church I did grow up in, it's international, many different connections where, like, I had a friend in Paris. I had a friend in Rome. So, like, you know, it was nice to have some people from those places that could show us around, or, you know, navigate differently than most North Americans, I guess, would have seen things as. So definitely a mixture.
Yeah. Did you go, I mean, was the church like a missionary as well, in the way that you'd go off kind of sponsored by the church?
No, I wasn't sponsored by them, but it's a Salvation Army. So they're worldwide. And I mean, I even remember being in the Netherlands, and we had to stop at the Salvation Army. I forget, it wasn't a church. It was more like they do family services. They do street ministry, which I'm very much about being outside and being on the streets, because like that started a whole thing for me of, I think, why I am where I am today, because, you know, you can go into a building and say stuff, but what are you doing in the community? And so I think it was in the Netherlands where they were doing a lot in the community. And I was with my mom in the Netherlands, and she wanted to see what they were doing. So we stopped there, but it's, yeah, not sponsored, but just a lot of different connections. And I almost knew someone from that from the church in many different countries.
So was it a particular church religion?
Yeah. Yeah, it's Christian. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I say that because I've got neighbours that what is it? I forgot the bloody name now. Forgot the name. Forget it. But I mean, they have people from their ministry all the time, and they always invite us over to listen. And yeah, we go. Nevertheless, it's interesting. It's always pleasant to meet other people and hear their point of view. Mm. But I mean, they travel, and they have different people that come all the time sharing about God, the Bible, Jesus, and everything else. It's interesting. I mean, not something that I particularly follow in that way, but nevertheless, yeah, they're nice people, and I like to hear their stories. So you said that you're not religious anymore.
No,
So was it the factor of following religion that you could see that kind of changed the way that you thought, or was it life and growing up and seeing different things that changed, or what kind of was it?
I think it was a mixture of things. I think I look back on my life and I have zero regrets, because what I can see from my point of view now, knowing I have much more to learn, but from my point of view now, I go, okay, like that had to happen to bring me to that step and that step and that step. And it's very easy for me to sit here and to tell my victim story of how I think the church manipulated me. And that's a very big generalization, where you're saying they're very kind people that are your neighbors. So I don't like to say it like that, because my brother's a pastor and I love the way he serves people and he leads that church. But for me, it was, I think, a mixture of things. I think the traveling and opening my eyes to other religions, to seeing how other people live. And then I went to school to become a pastor. I was 24 years old, turning 25, and I had a spiritual awakening in my condo. So it was like, oh my goodness, everything. I asked questions since I was a kid. Like, I remember being out in the forest, like I said, or walking in my hallways of schools, or my school hallways, and just going, things don't make sense. Like, I had a lot of questions. I would ask like absurd things that sound crazy, but now, as where I am today, it's like, no, like there was an inner knowing that I knew back then. And so I just started asking a lot of questions. I started seeing the contradictions. Like, there just seemed to be a lot of contradictions, that I had to do this, but Jesus did this. And it's like I have been pushed into many different molds, or I have been tried to be pushed into different molds. And then I just go, I don't want to be a part of this. And when I step free from that, I go, whoa. And so just a lot of like just moments throughout my life that have brought me to where I am, but I see the world and myself completely different now. So.
Yeah, I agree. And I've been, I mean, from a childhood, kind of been indoctrinated into different types of religious groups, not really being pushed into it, but because of circumstances. Born in Scotland, I went to kind of Protestant kind of Christian school, and on my father's side. My mum, on her side, her parents were both Orthodox Jews, although she never practiced. And then I met different girlfriends kind of throughout life that were born again Christian or whatever. And my neighbors, Mormons. Actually, I didn't even know what a Mormon was until I spoke with a neighbor. And he said, "Do you want to come to church with us?" And I said, "Well, kind of what religion is it?" He says, "Mormon." I thought, well, what's that? Well, in my naivety, but there's so many. Which one would you pick? Right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they all go back to the same source. So does it really matter? Right?
Exactly.
It's just like supporting football teams. At the end of the day, you support football being the umbrella, right? If you use an analogy, all the different teams, you'll support your team. But at the end of the day, you support football. Yeah, and you come together when it's the World Cup and stuff like this. So what's the difference? So I would rather, similar to you, I felt my spiritual connection, and I thought, I don't need people telling me how to believe. I should find that from within. And
exactly. Yeah.
And maybe some people need a bit of guidance, but at the end of the day, once you know how to tap into yourself, then it's just navigating your own mind, because the answers and everything is already there.
Yeah.
So anyway, we digress a little bit. So growing, I'm going to come on to the spirituality shortly, but when you traveled, I mean, you said you went to Turkey. So did you go to Istanbul?
I did, yeah.
And you went to the Blue Mosque, I guess?
Yeah, actually, I think that was the very first day, was the Blue Mosque. So
very fascinating place. I mean, we have friends or other people that join the show from Turkey. Some great
so close
people.
To Bulgaria. Next time you should also visit Bulgaria.
Did you go to? Sorry?
There's so many more places I want to go to. It's just, haven't traveled in the last few years. So.
Yeah. So when you went to Turkey, you have an experience. You went on a hot air balloon. Was that Turkey? All right. Tell us about that.
Well, I think, that was my first big trip out of North America. I had done, I've traveled in Canada, traveled in the States, but going across the water, it's a very different experience. Like many different places I would go, this isn't the world. I feel like this is a completely different planet. And in Turkey, I think I was still really struggling. I was only 19 or 20 at the time. Didn't really know who I was going on this trip with like people I didn't know. I was very self-conscious. And it was just, we got up really early. I think we got up at like 3 or 4 to be on these hot air balloons for 5 a.m. And it was just, oh my goodness, like I'm a part of this world. Like it's so hard for me to put words to the experience. It was just, if I had to pick one thing from my travels, it would be that there was just something unexplainable about it and something miraculous of going, okay, this life, I think we haven't been told everything about how amazing this world is, how amazing the life is, and how amazing we are. Like, it was just, I was just sitting back and enjoying it and going, there's so much beauty. And I think I really closed myself off to the beauty of the world.
So what made you decide to go on a hot air balloon then? Was it something you planned, or was it just it was just there at the time when you thought, let's have a go, or how did that come about?
It was just there. I mean, I got my itinerary for Turkey, and when we got there, that was a bonus thing that we could choose to do.
When you said we, you mean, did you travel with your mum or?
No, but just meaning we, like the group that I was with.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, so many of us did it. I think probably more than half of the group did it. So it was cool.
So how big was the basket that you go in?
It was pretty big, but it was a little awkward. Like it was pretty high. So you had to like jump up and like lift yourself over it. There was no like door to come in. Yeah, it was an experience, right? And these two guys who were Turkish, they're like yelling at each other and getting it going. And then I think we had wine afterwards. And at that point, I wasn't allowed to drink. Like that was also part of the religious background that I come from. We aren't allowed to drink. And I think I just started breaking some rules.
So that was you needed alcohol there to give you the courage.
No, it was afterwards. It was a celebration.
All right.
Yeah.
But that was your first experience of alcohol then, was the celebration. Yeah.
And it was sparkling. Like it was okay, but it was more, I think, the atmosphere that I was in, you know?
Yeah. But how many people, I'm just curious about these because we have tons of hot air balloons that fly overhead here. And then I see them coming down. So everyone's like rushing to the field to see if they can see them coming down. So, yeah. Is it scary or anything? And how high does it go? And for how long? And how many people are in the basket? And what are you thinking about when you're up there?
I mean, I can't remember if I was scared or not. I think if there were more people up there, like there were other baskets than just us, and there was probably like 12 to 15 of us in the basket. It was a pretty big basket. Like it was probably bigger than a bedroom, you know?
Wow.
And yeah, I wasn't scared. Like it was just, I had to trust that these guys were gonna bring it down, and we were probably up there 45 minutes, an hour. I mean, it was over 10 years ago.
But how do they bring you down? They just say, oh, we're going down now, or we're running out of gas, we need to come down, or there's a field over there that's aimed for that. I mean, how did they do it?
I can't remember how they came down. But I remember there being fire, like some sort of fire. Like it wasn't an engine. I don't think it was more.
No, it's not an engine. It's like hot air with the gas and big gas burner.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just know that there were two guys in the basket with us, and then there were guys at the bottom helping us land.
Do you have a parachute? Just in case.
I don't even remember that. There must have been, but we didn't have them strapped to us or anything.
No, actually there's not, because they say it's not high enough to deploy the parachute in time. Right? It's a wish and a prayer.
Yeah. I mean, we were having a blast up there, so I don't think we were too concerned.
Okay. So, yeah. I'm fascinated with that. Hi, Deborah.
If you get the chance to do it, I would encourage you to go for it. Like,
I used to say I was scared of heights, right? I spoke with someone who said, oh, I'm scared of heights. And they said, can you go in an aeroplane? I said, yeah. And he said, you're not scared of heights? And I said, well, I am. And he said, can you go to the edge of a building? And I said, yes, but I don't like to look over. And they said, well, you're not scared of heights. You're scared of falling. You have a fear of falling. And there's a difference. And I said, oh, maybe that makes sense. Because when I'm in a big commercial plane, I feel okay. You have your gin and tonic and you sit back, you read your book and everything. It's fine. But when you're like somewhere, you're looking over the edge of a mountain and you're, oh shit, look down there. I could feel my legs going to jelly and I'm like hanging onto the railing. And I said, it's a fear of falling. And there's a difference. And I thought, okay, I have a fear of falling, like vertigo or something. Right.
The thing is too, is I'm afraid of heights, and that was fine for me.
Well, then you're not scared of heights, yeah.
Well, I think this is how powerful our minds are, is we tell ourselves things. And I remember being in school with a girl where scared of heights, scared of closed places, and
scared of spiders.
Yeah, all of that. And the thing is that there's an underpass below the water to get in from Canada to the US. There's bridges, and then there's part that's over water. And like all week she was so scared to do that, but we were like, she didn't even know we were underwater, and she wasn't scared because she didn't know we were underwater. We had her distracted. We were playing games on the bus, and then, you know, she was like, oh, we went through it, and she was fine. Our minds are so powerful. And like, I think it has something to do with our belief system. And I don't know.
I completely agree, because I used to have a fear of roller coaster rides, right? And then just in the last holidays with the kids, it was the only place that had some sun was to go to Europa Park here in Germany, right? So everybody wanted to go, and I thought, oh shit, we've got to go there. I don't want to go, and my wife hates them, right? So she says, you have to go with the kids. I thought, I don't want to go with the kids either, right? But I've got to be brave, right? And if they want to go, a lot of the ones, they have to have an adult with you. So anyway, we got there and we went on some roller coasters, and there's like hundreds of roller coasters. Well, lots of roller coasters. It's a roller coaster theme park, basically, right? So we went on some easy ones, and then the water ones that like drop down in the water and you get soaking wet. And then ones are indoors, outdoors, big ones, loop the loop, twists. So I ended up going on with the kids. And after there was a kind of a breaking point I thought, I love this, right? I want the front row, right? So we were then going, me and my eldest son, on the bigger ones, on the front rows and stuff. And I overcame my fear of roller coasters on that trip, because we did so many that I got so used to it. I couldn't wait to be in the queue to queue up for the next one. So I was like the big kid. So
love it.
Just going back to kind of fear and things, you can accept it, you can overcome it, you can deal with it, you can, completely kind of eradicate certain fears by actually doing it. And it was mindset. The fear and the noise of some of them, I thought, I'm not doing this. But when I was actually doing it, I thought, well, it's actually fun. Anyway, Deborah has just joined. And this is probably something that Deborah likes, these sorts of conversations as well.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you, Sarah and Boyan.
Hi.
Deborah. So Deborah's going to be a guest at some point, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't know. Waiting for alignment on that one, I guess.
Right. Anyway, thanks for coming. Right, because Deborah's got some interesting stories to share as well, but we'll save those. We'll save those for her slot. So, Sarah, let's just kind of move on. So, growing up, I mean, experiencing work and stuff. So, after school, did you go into university? Did you do any studies, or did you go straight out to work, or what did you do?
It's such a roller coaster. I went to school in the States right away. I was so excited, but I dropped out, I think like 2 months in, might not have even been 2 months in. Just wasn't doing well. Like, I think so much, again, being in the perspective I am now, I ran away a lot from my problems. So instead of asking for help, instead of telling someone I wasn't doing okay, I would run. And that's partly, I think, why I traveled so much. I would be in the familiarity, be at home, needed to leave. But I had no regrets, because again, the traveling did so much for me. So I dropped out, I came back home, I started doing my studies online with another university that was very similar to the school I was at from the States. And then I started traveling. So because I was doing it online most of the time, I did a lot of traveling. I did a lot of different jobs. I was just, in this space of just figuring out who I am. And it was beautiful. Like, it took me 8 years to get my degree and master's. So
in what?
in counseling and coaching. So, and it's fascinating because when I was in my last semester of my master's, I was working full time, doing school for full time. I was exhausted. I was close to burnout. And it was kind of like I had a crisis, and, I'm learning all these things about psychology and how to help everyone else. But I had never done any of that for myself yet. Like, I kept going through the motions and getting through life. So, it was like I kind of had to stop. Like, I took, I think, a year off of doing my career stuff and just healed, like started my healing journey. And it's so interesting though, because I have changed so much because of that, but yet my studies, I still am in it and I'm still loving what I studied. So it's just so interesting to me that happened to be the case, because some people that go through that, like my therapist said, you're having like a midlife crisis at 25, but, or a quarter life century, whatever. But so many people that go through that, they change completely and start doing something new, where, I guess it's changed some things, but I still have that passion to help people in that way. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, excellent. So when you were doing that, were you living at home with your parents still at the time?
I was living with my grandparents at the time of my master's. I had done so much traveling. It was really hard for me to go home, but being in school still, it was nice. I just lived with my grandparents. My grandpa had Alzheimer's at the time. So it was 2 years. I cherished that time because he passed away a year later. So I was able to spend a lot of time with them. My parents separated when I was young. So seeing my grandparents interact was beautiful as well, and just spending time with them.
Okay. And when you went to study, why did you want to study in the US and not in Canada?
I think I just wanted to explore. It goes back to that I needed to be in other cultures, and many people think Canada is very similar to the US, but it's not. There are many differences, but I think I just liked the adventure of going somewhere new.
So whereabouts did you study? When you went to travel, you did lots of traveling around the US as well.
Yeah, I did some in Kentucky, Virginia, and California.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you do South America at all? Have you been there?
No, I have not been there. And then I've contemplated, should I go down to Mexico, just go down there for a month or something, but I haven't, again, the last few years, I've just been a little bit hesitant to go anywhere, but I'm definitely going, okay, I'd like to go. But I've also traveled a lot in Canada and very appreciative of, what we have here. It's just the other cultures are so amazing to me.
Yeah, it just made me think of something, actually. Since we've had, or you are our 103rd guest, then wouldn't it be good? The guests are all over the world. As I mentioned, like Australia, they're in the US, the Nordic countries, Eastern Europe, and so on, right? If we had kind of this open house that any previous guest could come and visit another guest in their home.
That would be cool.
Like we've also got Barbara in Mexico, and Gavin that was on earlier, in South Africa. So, there are people all over the world. And yeah, there's a place there that I guess we'd all be welcome, and it'd be nice to visit them as well.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I'd love that. I'd like to go around just visiting them all now and doing the show from different people's houses. But anyway, we digress. But lots of different things. So tell us about kind of other jobs that you did. Did you do kind of any work for any corporate companies or any companies or things to bring an income in while you were studying? And then at what point, because now that you've got your master's, was there any, you mentioned about burnout at 25, and then more, you mentioned also earlier about getting into kind of more spirituality. So was that all happening around the same time, or was one before the other? And how does that happen?
Yeah, it was all intertwined. I see it now as it's all intertwined. Like when I when I was going through that time, it was like, oh, well, I've done everything everyone told me I was supposed to. I've done my degree, done my master's. I wrote a book, like all these things I had done before I was 22 years old. Like, and then I hit this roadblock of what the heck am I supposed to do next? And I had a good job. I was working at a school for the 2 years I was working on my master's, which was really beneficial to be among the kids as I was studying counseling and psychology. But, you know, there's always been this itch in me, like, I need to go, like, I can't stay here. And, when I was done my master's, and then I went in to become a pastor. And at this point, I wasn't really listening to myself. I didn't have the connection with within that I have now. I was more so doing what everyone else wanted me to do. Oh, you'll be a great pastor. You'll be a great this. You'll do. And because I was so, I would say, lost at that point, because I had done everything I was told I was supposed to do. Now I'm just supposed to get a job. Like, it felt like I needed something more. So I got accepted. I went out there, and I would say prior to going out to school to become a pastor, I fell into, I want to be careful with labels, but I was definitely low and maybe even depressed. Like, and now I consider it being the dark night of my soul, where it felt like I was losing everything and I didn't know who I was, and loss of identity, all of that stuff. And then I went in to become a pastor, but I was still riding the wave of, you know, what everyone else wanted me to do. And I think it was I had a Christmas or a winter internship out in BC, and in Canada, that is such an amazing place. It's on the coast, a lot of different people there from other countries. I was meeting people from all over the world. I was doing ministry work with nurses on the street. And it was, again, feeling like I can't go back to that mold. I was so free for a few weeks, doing whatever I wanted, helping people where I wanted. And I think, again, all these different things were leading me to where I am. But I remember going back and being on the plane and going, I'm not supposed to be where I am. Like, I'm just not supposed to be there. And we came back to school in January, and we had this intensive, and I had this, like, I was just sitting there in class, and I was picturing a bird. I was picturing a bird that was flying, and the bird was free, and I wanted to be this bird. And then the lady that was sitting next to me, her and I had built a relationship. What I loved about her is that she did not hesitate saying anything. She would just say stuff. Got her into trouble sometimes, but I love people like that. And she just, in that instant when I was visualizing this bird, she reaches over to me and she's like, Sarah, I need to tell you something. And I'm like, what? And she's like, I have a vision that you have wings you haven't flown yet. And I was like, what the heck? Like, you know, divine intervention, completely felt unreal. I started bawling and I had to leave the class. She came with me and she goes, you're not supposed to be here, are you? And I said, no, I'm not supposed to be here. But it was such a turning point in my life, because it really, really put me, I don't want to say forced, but for the first time in my life, I had to tell someone I wasn't okay. And I remember leaving that class and going to someone. She was our mentor. I felt safe with her. And I remember sitting down and just crying still and saying, I don't know. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with my life, but I'm not supposed to be here. And, you know, I think I assumed the worst. I assumed I was going to be judged. I was going to be condemned. I was going to be told, no, you have to stay here. Because again, our beliefs are so, like, that's what I was believing about myself. And she just looked at me with the biggest smile and said, well, who do you want to be? Like, what do you want to do? And then I was like, what? I've never asked myself these questions. I'm allowed to ask myself these questions. And so it was January, and they were doing a spiritual disciplined course. And it was through that course that helped me with my spiritual awakening, I think. But because if I had stayed, I guess, knowing I was going to be a pastor, there was 5 or 6 other courses you were doing. But because I was dedicating all my time to the spiritual course, like, I actually had time to walk through the disciplines they were teaching us, and they were life-changing. And I was having experiences in my condo when I was trying to implement these things. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, I'm not taught this in church. I'm not I've been told I can't do these things. And I had no idea really what they meant. But I was just kind of taking one day at a time. And a big thing that started happening in me is that I wasn't going to bed with anxiety. I didn't know that was not normal. It was like I would go to bed with panic in my chest, wake up with panic in my chest. And I remember going to bed and going, holy shit, is this what peace is? Like, you're taught about peace in church, but I had never felt the whole, like, I'm taken care of, I'm going to be okay. And I had no idea what I was going to do next. Like, no idea. And I think at the time, like, I had some savings, but in my bank account, I had like $500. Like, I was just kind of rolling with life. And I left, it was out in Winnipeg, where I don't know if you guys know Canadian geography, but it was in a different province than where I live now. And so one of my brothers who, he was feeling that he needed something new. So he moved to this Hamilton, and he got us an apartment, but I had not seen the apartment. I didn't have a job. I didn't really know the city. I just moved. And every day I shut up. I think I got off social media for a year. And I walked everywhere. I would go to a new cafe every day, take my resume to a new place. Like, I just started doing things that were not my normal thing. Like, I worked at Starbucks, which is a coffee shop. I worked at a men's shelter, and I worked at a deli. Like, I was a deli person behind the counter, and it was all minimum wage jobs. And people would really talk down to me, like, why are you here? And then I would tell them, oh, I have my master's. And then, their whole demeanor would change with me. And I'm like, but I'm relearning me. So I'm doing all these different things that I've never tried before. And it's brought me to where I am today. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah. It's great. Everybody has kind of a different turning point or a realization in their life. And yeah, I've had many, and sometimes something happens that triggers it off, but you forget, or you think it's insignificant, and you ignore it, and then it happens again, and then you kind of ignore it until it's like in your face, like, come on, wake up. And I've had that all through my life. Particularly as a child, sit a lot of the time just gazing out the window at night, looking at the stars, and then wishing that I could be up amongst them, and thinking that I didn't belong. I always thought I didn't belong here. This isn't my place. And if it is my place, what am I here to do? And I don't know what. And then you kind of forget about that. And then the only time you kind of remember that is when you're philosophizing over a few drinks at a party with some friends, and you're lying on the grass on a summer's evening, gazing up at the stars, drunk or stoned, and start talking about all of this again. And that's the time that you really feel free. And then the next day you've got a hangover and you feel terrible, and you carry on with your day job and forget about it again for another few years. But there's something always there. And I found that kind of trigger point more so in the last 2 years, that came through in dreams, very, very vivid dreams with messages. Now, wow. I'm not going to go into the detail of those. We'll be here all day, but something that we could talk about offline, but something so powerful that it changed my life as well, changed the way I felt about what it is that I'm here to be doing.
Yeah.
But so I think everybody has a story to tell. And I think everybody has that opportunity to feel something greater inside them. It's just that sometimes you don't see the signs, and you just carry on. So when you decided not to be a pastor, and how did your family feel? Because your brother is a pastor, and then I guess you're coming from a religious background, and how was that accepted in the family? And did they make you feel like, no problem, go off and do your own thing? Or what was their reaction?
I disappointed a lot of people, but I'm learning that that's kind of the point. It's a mixture. Like, I have a cousin who is so happy that I found this way of life. And but to some people it was a shock. And I mean, I was so excited. I was so excited that I was on this spiritual awakening, and I didn't even know what, like, I was just at the beginning. I had no idea what things were. I was just open to it. And I was having these miraculous, I would say, experiences every day. And I remember getting back, and friends would come see me, because a lot of them were concerned for me. I think a lot of them were concerned I was losing my faith, right? And so they would come, they would take me out for coffee, and then I would share an experience that I had. And then I just had a lot of people looking at me like I'm crazy, like I'm crazy. But then I learned, wait, I can't tell everyone these. Like some of these experiences are just for me for now. And everything started shifting. My friendships, I mean, I definitely have some friends that we're still friends, very few. And I think we'll be friends forever now, because, you know, we can have differences and still respect each other. But my friendships have done a 180. Like you're saying, I don't believe there's just one thing. That was probably the pivotal point, but there's probably been 3 other incidences where I felt like, okay, I'm on this path and there's something over here and I've got to go. Like, it doesn't make any sense to anyone else, but I've got to go over there. And then I get on another path. Like, I call it your fated path versus your destiny path. But when you're on your destiny path, it can be, oh, like, life is good. And then the universe goes, okay, wait a minute. Like, here you go. Are you gonna go? Are you gonna up level? So many different experiences like that, where I think my friendships have done a 180 like 3 times, because as you shift the world around you, and, you know, you want to be with like-minded people. And I mean, I've had to learn too that I can still be friends with people that maybe are not spiritual, because that's healthy too. It's healthy to know just to be a human some days, because we are living in this human experience, and to just observe, like, you know. And yeah, I can't remember what your question was, but
how are you accepted by your family?
I mean, I think my mom, I had a conversation with her a couple of weeks ago, and she asked me if I was going to go back to church ever. And I said, right now, no. I said, I don't need to, but it's really cool, because my grandma has been like, I haven't never said this to her face, but I think she's such a rock star, because she's 84 years old. And, you know, I don't want to speak too much of her, or, you know, use her voice, but she's been on her own path of, her and I can talk about the spiritual stuff. And she knows about her third eye, and she follows a pastor. He's still a pastor, but he talks all about healing within, not just God is outside of you. And it's fascinating talking to my grandma about these things, because she gets it. She understands me, but with certain people, you know, but everyone is where they're at. And I think it's very easy to judge someone and go, you know, you need to be where I'm at. And that's not the point of this experience. Anyone you sit down with, you're going to learn something. And a mantra that I have for me is just lead me to the people that need me today, and lead the people that need me today. Because we need both, regardless of where we're at, because we're all right on time.
Yeah, I love it. And yeah, Deborah, she's saying this resonates with her 100%. And me likewise. And yeah, I also find that, yeah, your group of friends definitely changes over the last few years, because I've changed the way that I am, or maybe not necessarily changed. I've come to accept who I really am. And because of that, my views and everything about what I do, a lot of it has changed, and people don't feel the same towards me anymore. They either chastise you, or they call you the fool, the idiot, the conspiracy theorist, the whatever they want to call you. And I don't care anymore. I've had 2 years of long discussions about one thing or another. I feel that I have a book inside me, another book that I want to write. I already have it in my head, is called the universe within your mind, because we talk about everything that's outside, but there's so much we need to learn about ourselves and tap into ourselves that it's the unknown. And the deeper you go within your mind, the more you get the answers of what you were looking for. And yeah, my rabbit hole is myself in a way, right? So I'm going down there to meet Alice and have the white rabbit and whatever, but in my own mind, because that's unexplored, and the only person that can explore it is myself.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, it's fascinating, because I've been called a conspiracy theorist by many people that I would say I loved and I looked up to. And it was a big learning curve, because most of the things I was saying came from within me. It wasn't me going to all of these things. It was me going to myself. What's really cool, I shared on Facebook yesterday the death of a star and the birth of a cell, and how that's all intertwined. But then my grandma actually shared this. It's really cool. The universe and then our brain cells and how similar they are. Like, I think you mentioned at the beginning of this conversation that so much, you didn't say it this way, but I'm going to say it this way, that so much is backwards. Like, we have to look in between the lines, because it's fascinating. It's really, really fascinating.
yeah, we had a great guest last week. You probably know him, actually. He came from Canada. Frank Jacob.
No, I'm going to have to watch.
Right. I haven't finished editing like the show from last week yet. I'm a bit behind, but I mean, this guy, yeah, blow your socks off. I mean, yeah, he's been on this journey for a long, long time, but he's also made documentaries about it because he's a film producer.
Wow.
And really, really excellent guy. It gets you definitely to think differently. Although we try to have these shows that we aren't on any view or the other. It's about getting to know kind of the guest and on your journey, although it does open up to the way that we think and some connections that we all have with each other. Anyway, kind of moving on a little bit. So, there's one thing I did notice that I wanted to ask you about. You did some modeling.
Yes.
You still do that?
I mean, I'm open to it. I was going to do some modeling in, I think it was June or July, and then I was sick. So, I was feeling sick. But yeah, no, that's mainly volunteering. There's not much money in modeling over here, and it's fun. I think, again, I grew up with so much fear, and there was a lot of things that were taught to me that made me fear my own body. And when I touched on, I felt manipulated in my religion. It was, you can't do this, this, and this because you'll go to hell. So what that translated to me inside is I'm not safe within myself, and I'm fearful of my own body. And that's not where I want people to be living. And I really had to relearn that. And modeling along the way has been fun. Like, it's another side of self-expression. It's me not being ashamed of my body. And what I noticed in Europe too, is that there were just so many people were walking around so free in their body. And I'm like, we don't do that over in Canada. Like, everyone is so reserved and you hide and everything. That's another thing I observed over in Europe. But yeah, it's just something fun I'll do once in a while if someone asks me.
Okay, so what type of modeling is it then?
I mean, usually clothing, one time it was athletic wear, the other time it was underwear. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Not naked stuff.
No.
All right. Okay. All right. Okay. So yeah, you could share the links to that. I'll be interested to look at. I'm only joking. Although I would be interested in looking. But moving on from that. So, but you're right. I mean, people need to overcome their fear. So you're now into sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Right. So the drugs haven't come into this yet.
No. And I mean, I didn't really start drinking until I was 25. And I feel like I'm already out of the partying stage. Like I didn't even really party. It was like, oh, okay, I haven't been missing out on much, but I mean, I had a glass of wine with my dad this week. Like I'll have a glass of wine, but I'm not big into the party scene at all.
Yeah, but Jesus drank wine.
Yeah, I know. A lot of it is backwards. I was being told to do this and Jesus did this. It didn't make sense to me. And I'm like, why am I here?
Yeah. I mean, wine, goes back thousands of years.
Yeah. And I will say, like, the denomination that I grew up in, the Salvation Army, it started in the UK in London with, their names are Catherine Booth and William Booth. And they were part of a church where they wouldn't accept drug addicts, alcoholics, straight people weren't allowed into their church. So they started the Salvation Army to help people get over their addictions. So they cut out alcohol because they had alcoholics trying to become sober. But, that was in the 1800s. This is now 2022. And we're still like, there were a lot of things that, we were still having to do that were irrelevant in my mind to today's culture.
No, absolutely. I mean, sometimes you have to question, why are they an alcoholic? And you need to find kind of the root cause of it. And maybe that's just the escapism, because that's the way that they can relieve the pain that they're in. And if you can address the pain and sort the problem, maybe they wouldn't need to take the alcohol or the drugs or whatever it may be. Yeah. It's typically to escape.
Well, that's exactly right. And addiction is a symptom of trauma. And if we just look at the addiction alone, we're not really getting to the root cause. And I think it's a struggle, because I grew up in that church where a lot of people were signing this document that they weren't going to do it, but behind closed doors, they were doing it. And I am an advocate for always being in control of your mind, meaning I don't want to get drunk because I want to be in control of my mind. I think there's a whole, I won't go into it and I'm not going to get it perfect anyways, but there's a whole theory about alcohol and what it does to your spirit. So my take is I enjoy glass when I want to enjoy glass. Because, I had an eating disorder for a very long time where I feared food. I think that went with my fearing my own body. And I used to look at food as an enemy. And it's like last night, I could have had salmon, a beautiful salmon, and like my body was craving a grilled cheese. I had the grilled cheese. I don't care that it was just bread and cheese. It was really, really good. And so if I want a glass of wine once in a while, I'm going to enjoy that glass of wine. But it's that mindfulness, not just, okay, I'm going to numb myself or I'm going to just escape. Yeah.
So do you eat meat as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Just curious. Yeah. I try to be aware of the things that I consume, although, as you said, sometimes I have a craving for junk food that's not particularly good, but I just feel I need to have some, right? It doesn't mean I'm going to eat it every day. It just means for that moment in time, I have that urge and that craving. It's like chocolate. I have the urge for chocolate all the time. So, that is probably something that, yeah.
I think it's practically the matter of common sense, let's say, so not to go to the extremes, and to also, I really like what you shared, that universe is endless, but also if you dive into the small thing, they're also endless. We just didn't reach the end of this micro world. So people sometimes, actually, the humanity, they say, oh, this is the smallest, that's it. So then in several decades, they find something smaller than this, or something more far to. It's
true. I like to go to different countries and experience the different foods, right? And I must admit, in Turkey, I didn't like Turkish coffee. I thought it was terrible.
I'm drinking Turkish coffee American style.
Oh,
Yeah, you don't know. It's you. My wife is making in jezve, they call it. So it's you put water, it starts boiling. You put then the coffee. It's pretty strong, and then in the mug I put like 6-7 millimeters, and then I fill it in with water to get American. To be like, this is how I drink coffee.
yeah. So, I mean, when I go back to the UK, I mean, I grew up with fish and chips, right? I absolutely love fish and chips, but I remember being there and I had the craving for it. I'd like waited 2 years to have fish and chips. I've got to get fish and chips when I get there. And then after I had it, right, which was lovely, I loved it. Yeah, I found that I couldn't eat it every day. Then it was just it's too much. So, but then yeah, I'm all for exploring different types of foods and things. Some things I love and can't get enough of, and other things that yeah, what's the big deal kind of thing. I'm not one for the McDonald's and this type of stuff.
No.
But anyway, that's another story. So let's tell us that. Let's kind of move on to where you are now, because we've heard a lot about you. So you started after this kind of awakening and this spiritual calling, and kind of rediscovering yourself, then and then also with your studies and everything, and what you've learned on your travels. You started. How did you decide that you wanted to start your own business?
Mm-hmm. I think I had that desire, stemming from me writing my book. And then when I did my master's, I didn't just do it in counseling, I did it in coaching. And they were teaching us in the way that you can own your own business. And this is what it can look like when you own your own business in coaching. So I always had that in the back of my mind. And I think experiences like working in a men's shelter, I also worked with, I was a counselor with adults that had disabilities. So I was getting experience like with, working for organizations and stuff. But, when the pandemic hit and everything was closing off, I said, okay, I mean, I can sit on my couch all day, or I can actually work towards what I want to be doing. And so that's what is a decision. I think things come into our lives and we can't control it, but we also get to decide. We have power over our decisions. And I just decided. It was a couple years ago now, and I had no idea how to get online. Like that's a whole other learning curve. I knew how to coach and I knew it was needed. I knew my message was needed. It was just, how the heck do I go online now? How do I navigate building a business online? That was a huge learning curve for me. So I took a lot of courses, learned from many different mentors. I think I'll always be learning, which is awesome. But and I was coaching people one-on-one. And then I really had the passion to make what I wanted or what I was doing into a program where anyone can come in, get it anytime. So I'm still coaching one-to-one. And then I also have a program. It's called the Soul Talk Method. And it basically it's a step-by-step guide to help someone heal their inner child while they're going through their spiritual awakening. Because for me, that was the link. It was, I started healing my inner child that was not okay, that was very wounded and still harboring trauma as an adult while I was going through a spiritual awakening. And I did tons of research. For months, I was doing research, talking to people, getting to know their story. And anyone who I was talking to, well, I shouldn't say anyone, almost everyone I was talking to who was on a spiritual awakening, their key point too was, well, I had to heal my inner child. And so it crafted it from, okay, this is what I went through, but also this is what's needed. And so that program is mainly for people who are at the beginning of their stages, not really knowing what to do, need that guidance, need that foundation to be built, and walking and, living out their trauma still as adults and wanting to heal their inner child. So, I work with, there was one point where I had more men one-on-one coaching, because even just the lie that men are told when they're younger, you can't have any emotions, like just shut up, like men don't cry. You're told that constantly. Like I remember having a boss at one point, and his wife was a coach, and he said, I never believed men had emotions. Like he was raised, he's older, he could have been, another dad, but he was raised by someone in the military where like, you don't have emotions, you just get through life. And now as an adult in his 60s, he's working through all this emotional trauma that he had. So it's very needed. And I really believe in it.
So you've got, so you started some programs and everything. So how do you deliver these programs? Are they on, you mentioned some are kind of online, you do yourself, some are one-to-one, you do it in groups, or you do it for companies, you do it for, who are your typical clients for this?
Both men and women, variety of different ages. I've got people who are just out of university. I've got people who are in their 50s, 60s. But the genre, I guess, is they're going through a spiritual awakening and they need to heal their inner child. That's basically the niche. But there's just two things. It's either they can work one-on-one with me, or I have the program, the Soul Talk Method, and it's online. I do it live every week. I love being live with the people, and they get to comment, they get to ask questions. But eventually what I want to bring it to is it's a recording, and they can buy it anytime, listen to the recording, and then still have me for additional coaching during the week.
All right. And how long is the coaching normally last? Is it 1 hour a week? Is it for how many weeks? Typically, what is it?
Sure. So if someone's working one-on-one with me, they can be working with me for months or just a month. Like it all depends. But for this program, it's an 8-week curriculum program. 8 weeks of curriculum, about an hour of coaching every week. But then there's homework, because it's one thing to know it, it's another thing to embody it and apply it. But what I love about this program is it's lifetime access, meaning once the 8 weeks is up, you don't have to be done and you don't get access to me or the courses, because as many of us know, healing is not just, okay, 8 weeks is up, I'm done healing. I have many people who went through the first round and they're still doing the one that's active now, because life happens and they want to get more out of it. And every single time I do the program, the material is also updated. So people get access to that as well. I love that, because the coaching world can be very expensive. And there's many things within the coaching world online that I don't agree with. I think healing needs to be accessible. I think, I didn't get to where I am today with just by myself. Yes, I find the answers within myself, but I also needed that healthy guidance because I was so lost. And when people are there, I don't want them to go, oh, but I can't afford that. It's an expensive package, but it's one-time package. It's a one-time fee, and then you get lifetime access to it, as opposed to paying a high price every single month.
So you had to learn how to put packages together and to promote them and make them available online. So that was kind of a learning curve as well.
Oh, and you know what? I'm still learning, because the algorithm changes all the time. So, for a few months, it could be working marketing this way. And then it goes, okay, I've got to change it, and I've got to pivot, and I've got to adapt, but that makes it fun too.
So typically, are your clients in Canada, or could they be global?
All over. Yeah. I've had clients in, hi.
This is my daughter. This is one of the twins.
Lovely. Yeah, all over. I've had people from Europe, people from the States, people from Australia.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. So anyone.
So what do you prefer? Because it can be very time consuming doing one-to-ones, and then you feel you're kind of not necessarily repeating yourself all the time, because every person is different in a different point. But keep doing one-to-ones, can be repetitive and also hard work. So what do you prefer? Do you prefer the one-to-ones, or do you do group sessions as well? Or tell us more.
In the group, in the program, it is a group. It's a group. So you get the curriculum and you're doing a lot of stuff one-to-one, but then you're also in the community of people who are going through the same thing. I mean, it's hard to pick between the two. I love both. I love my one-to-one clients. I think there's a time for it, but then my program, I mean, I come alive. Like it's, I don't know if I can pick between the two, but having the program, like that's where I kind of want it to be, like that being on autopilot. And like, again, I'm doing it live right now, which I love doing it live because you're in the moment. But when it's recorded, anyone can buy it anytime and just start doing it, as opposed to me having to be teaching it every week.
Right. So if they have it live with you, it's cheaper. Yeah. It's more expensive than kind of getting the recording because it's not live and interactive, I guess.
No, it'll probably be the same amount, to be honest.
Can you share the amount, or you just want to...
It's $1,200 for the curriculum. For you get the curriculum, you get all the workbooks, the meditations, you get to be a part of the community. And then I always throw in one free one-to-one session with me where you get me one-on-one. Usually I encourage the people to do it after the 8 weeks, so that, okay, like I'm really struggling with week 3 or week 5. Can I get some extra guidance? And the community aspect, every month I go, regardless if it's recorded or not, it will continue to be like this on Zoom. We all get to see each other, interactive, more coaching. And that's a great way to learn too.
Sounds excellent. I need to check it out. So you can share all the links to your programs and the sites. What platforms do you typically use then to promote your business?
Instagram and Facebook are the biggest ones. And then I have a website.
Yeah, I see that you're on LinkedIn as well, because we're connected on there. Mm-hmm.
I don't update LinkedIn like I do Instagram and Facebook.
Right. Now, yeah. I'm just curious, would you, I mean, for this type of business, would you not consider LinkedIn as well?
Yeah, it's exhausting being on multiple platforms. Like I know people, I'm also on TikTok, which I don't even like TikTok, but you know, that's 2 to 3 platforms are like, it's exhausting. And with LinkedIn, I just haven't been motivated, but I know that there's lots of success with LinkedIn. There's always going to be a list.
Yeah, there's not many users on LinkedIn. There's only 850 million.
Okay.
Typically business professionals that would have these types of problems in the corporate world, and they're leaving the corporate world or being fired or changing their jobs or one reason or another, searching for the answers. So maybe LinkedIn is also something to consider.
Yeah.
I say that because I'm a LinkedIn guru and I trade on LinkedIn.
Nice. Yeah.
But anyway, so what do you find is the best platform that you're using at the moment to win clients?
Probably Instagram.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never really got into Instagram, and definitely not TikTok. I just find it's maybe I'm being sexist here, but I just think it's full of TikTok girls. I mean, it's all girls and flaunting themselves, or I just happen to come up with those feeds. But I mean, I don't see it being very professional.
I mean, you have to be really discerning in what you follow, because I'm on TikTok and I share about trauma and I share about the mind, I share about the body. That's all what's coming through my feed is other people who are doing inspirational videos and talking about that stuff. I very rarely see a stupid dancing video. And I mean, like, it's hard. Again, it fluctuates because Instagram can be doing really well for a few months and then it's Facebook. Like I've probably gotten 50-50 of my clients from either Facebook or Instagram. It's just, you're trying to keep up with what is trendy, where a lot of people are on TikTok and a lot of people, they want the fast video. So if I record a 10-second video saying something, it's going to get more views maybe than my post that just writes something, but I still love writing. So I'll write still and post that on Instagram and Facebook. And, you know, sometimes that does really well, but there's something about video. Like the next step for me is getting on YouTube, because YouTube can be really beneficial. Everyone loves YouTube. And then it gets viewed more than just 24 hours. Like Instagram, your post can be gone off the news feed within a day, whereas YouTube, something that you posted 5 months ago can still be getting views.
Yeah, there's a lot to look into. I mean, depends on where your audience are going to be hanging out, which one to use, because I mean, as you say, trying to use them all is very, very time consuming, and you need to kind of adjust the content to suit, right? Maybe it needs reformatting or whatever, because it's a different format and a different algorithm, the way that it works.
Yeah.
So, but nevertheless, I mean, so how is business at the moment?
Really good. Really good. Very grateful. I'm thinking of taking December off if I can. I think about being an entrepreneur, you always feel like you have to be on. But I'm going to take at least a bit of December off, because I finish the program in a few weeks, and then we'll be into December, and then the program won't start up again until January. So I'm going to try to just get some rest in. But I mean, my dream is that this program helps hundreds, thousands of people, right? Where there's always a learning curve. There's always, when you run your own business, it can be doing well, and then you're like, okay, what's next? What's next? You're kind of always on your toes. So it ebbs and flows. You know, I'm learning to rest and work. So
do you have, I mean, what's your biggest challenge at the moment?
I think maybe just the fact that people are scared right now. Like, there's a lot of, I see the good, I focus on the light, but it seems like there's a lot of people I'm talking to, and they want this. They're so lost, but I can't spend any money, or I have to do this first. Like, they're still living in the kind of the belief system that we've been programmed to live in. And again, I believe in this. I believe it's needed, if not by me, by someone else. Like, this theme of work is really, really needed right now. And I think people are still, they think they're stuck. They're not actually stuck. They think they're stuck. And so it's more so helping someone get out of their own limiting beliefs and knowing that they can take this step, that can be challenging.
No, exactly. So, yeah, I feel there is a big, over the last 2 years in particular, there is a big spiritual awakening. And yes, there's a lot of people that feel there's something there, but they don't know what it is. A lot of people are feeling kind of lost and disillusioned now, and confused. And with all the kind of scaremongering that's pumped out on the mainstream media all the time, and our governments, then they're creating fear, and people want hope, and they don't see it coming. I mean, they just see that energy prices going up, food prices, everything's going up, and everything is kind of manifesting into the negativity and the darkness. And it's people like you and me and others that are trying to say, well, this is the illusion that we're living in, and we need to break free from that. And the biggest problem is ourselves. Once we accept what's going on and we can identify that, then we can see beyond the veil, and we can start, first of all, discovering ourselves. And once we're empowered ourselves, then we can help others. Exactly.
I say it, the problem is ourselves, and then the solution is also ourselves. But there's a big bridge between the two.
No, exactly. So I actually love what you're doing, and would love to kind of understand more about your program, and also share maybe some of the stuff that I do that you don't know about yet either. But if you're growing and there's kind of more demand for this, and there's going to be more and more people I see that are going to start questioning and looking out for that help. I mean, it's going to get to a point that you cannot cope with the demand. So have you considered what you're going to do when it comes to a situation like that?
That's kind of the point of the program. Like there can be hundreds when it comes time that can enter it, and it won't be overwhelming because it's a set curriculum and a set homework, set community where it won't be overwhelming.
All right. So you're kind of geared up for that already.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm still doing lots of inner work within me because I feel like, you know, it was kind of an inner oath I took where I think I have no right to be coaching if I'm not still working on myself. This is a lifelong journey. It's going to ebb and flow. There'll be months where I'm like, well, I'm good. And then, whoa, I still have some shadow work to do. And it's constantly a deeper level where I'm feeling really called to do a lot of grounding work lately, a lot of clearing work and cleansing work, because I do feel that there's going to be a big need for this, bigger than what I can comprehend right now, and I get to be a part of it. So just kind of like taking one day at a time, with also being really intentional about that too.
It's because this can get quite deep as well, depending on how deep you want to go within your own mind, but also understanding what's going on really around us and what's the kind of fake and illusion and what is true.
Yeah.
Because as I said before, everything's inverted. What you think is one thing is probably the complete opposite. And we're living in a delusional world, and people need to wake up from it, because this is not what it was meant to be.
Yeah.
And I love your journey. I love what you're doing. So you have your own mentors as well, or people you follow?
Yep. I'm working with an intuitive coach right now. She's in her 60s. She's out in BC. She's wonderful. But you know, it's constantly moving. I'm constantly, I mean, there could be 6 months where I'm not really with a mentor, but, you know, someone comes into my life and I just have this feeling, oh, I got to work with this person. I've got to learn from them. And I mean, it's awesome. I think it's really interesting though, because if I was to go to my mentor that I had 6 years ago, it wouldn't be relevant to where I am today. Like, you know, it all kind of is a stepping stone. What I would love to do is to travel more again in cultures, and I want to learn self-defense. I want to learn how to live out in the woods with people and like be on a journey where it's in person mentorship and learning all these things. But that will come in time too.
Yeah. So I would like to also connect you with some of my previous guests, because a lot of them into this as well. So I had a great guy from the Netherlands who now lives in Brazil. And basically he's one of the founders of a platform and a New Earth movement. And they've got villages that they're creating around the world. And he's doing one in Brazil, and there's another one in Portugal, and there's going to be another in Italy. And basically it's called GaiaNet. And I will send you the link so you know.
Yeah.
But these people are magical people, and they've been on this journey a long time, and they've seen changes coming. And they don't necessarily want to be off grid, because you'll never ever be off grid, but in a way that you've got like-minded communities helping one another and doing something different. I mean, we all have a skill, yet most people don't know what their skill is. So it's about finding your true purpose, and most people don't know what that is either. And they've just been indoctrinated so much, they just follow effectively the matrix system. And yeah, once you start breaking free from that and you start critical thinking and having a more holistic view on life, then you start to join the dots together and think that, hang on a minute, this is not the world that I want to be in. I want to be in a world of something different. But change happens first with yourself. And until you change yourself, you can't feel that you belong to these other communities either, because you don't fit in either to them.
No,
But once you accept
you'll take the same problems into that.
Exactly. And then you don't want to be taking negativity in, you want to take positivity, and you want to move away from the kind of the lower vibrations and the darkness into the higher frequencies and the higher vibrations and feel the light and connect with directly to source, and then you'll get the answers. I say that because I also do shamanic healing. And
that's amazing.
And crystal work as well. So, I mean, but I connect with different people for different things. So with Dan and the Guyana, that's one group. Then I've got other people that I follow and or part of groups. And then I have my own thing with doing this show. I mean, this show is to bring people like you and others together. That's what I'm saying. When I get this organized, this platform will be that you can just click and see previous guests. You can connect with them. You can reach out to them. They'll be very open to that because they've been a guest as well. And the idea would then be to open it up that we can all visit each other in the respective places around the world. And if we want to be part of it, because we resonate with that and we feel that is part of us as well, then it's easier than to connect than trying to find these people and say, hi, I'm James from here and I want to. I think, oh, okay, but who the hell are you? And so in a way, you're doing this show and sharing people's stories is a way to bring people together. But you mentioned that you do podcasts as well.
I used to. I haven't been doing them for a while. I was with one of my best friends. It's kind of her baby. She's in radio and she started a podcast. I joined her, we interviewed a lot of people with their stories. I would share the psychological view, sharing some psychology and some takeaways for people who were in similar situations. But I had to step back from that because it was getting too much. I just wanted to focus on my one-to-one clients and building this program. So I haven't gone back to that. I do miss it, but it was exhausting because I was doing research every day, interviewing people and then interviewing people for the podcast. And I had to pick between them. So.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that I want to do that I just don't have time to do. And the things that I want to do with other people, because I feel that there's good synergies there that we could do something together. And it's trying to manage all of these things at the same time. They can be overwhelming because there's too many good things that I want to do. I also want to work with children. Having your own children, you learn a lot from them. So if there's anything that inspires me, it's my children. When you start to listen to them and watch them and just observe them, then they're inspiring you at the same time because you've kind of forgotten what it was like to really be a child. Yeah. And when you do bedtime stories with kids, then you just go into a wonderful, magical world. And this is what, if we can capture the essence and the beauty of that and bring it into the world that we live, not just with children, but with adults, then life would be so much more beautiful. It's just that it's tarnished with all the doom and the gloom and the grief and the darkness that we don't want, rather than all the things that we do want. And we focus on the things we don't want, and the universe manifests that and gives us more of what we don't want. And you've got to kind of break that mold. But anyway, we could talk all day. Yeah. I know, it's your morning and you need to, I guess, get on. So is there any closing thoughts or comments or takeaway that you want to leave the audience with?
Sure. Yeah. Just echoing what you have said. If we focus on what we can't have, if we're focusing on the lack, if we're focusing on who we aren't yet, that's the world we're creating. And so many of us, we are feeling that something else is coming. We've been feeling it maybe for a long time. We're feeling these shifts within. We're doing this inner work. Keep going, because we get to create this new world. people are doing it online like me, and then you're describing this friend or this previous guest that's doing villages. Like, we're all part of creating a new world. I really believe that. It's getting birthed through us, and then we get to create something new. So you get to be a part of that, and everyone has a uniqueness to bring to that as we become one again. And it's very, very exciting. It's also, it can be extremely hard and lonely at times. And there's going to be challenges along our way. There's going to be, I don't know how to describe it, just challenges that you're facing because you're trying to fight against the grain of, this is what we're programmed to think and believe, and I want to be over here. I want to be away from the matrix and creating this new world. So there's going to be tons of obstacles. I'm sure many of us have already faced them, but keep being grounded in yourself, and you're going to know. We're moving from that world of, we've got to have the science, we've got to have the statistics and the facts. We're moving into we just know, and we're going to go and step into it. So it's very exciting to be a part of that.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And yeah, I want to join your journey as well and connect you with other people as well. So I will share some links with you. You will see, they are previous guests, but you'd have to go through the recordings to find them at the moment until we set up all their bios and everything on the platform. But so I'll send the ones that I think are relevant, and you can check them out. If you want to connect with them, then I can either help you connect or you can do it yourself.
Yeah.
And also for you, if you can share all the links, I've got them in the questionnaire, so I'll share those as well. As I said, I just edit this final version, and then I'll put it on YouTube and then send you the link, and then you can do what you wish with it.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So Sarah, thank you very much for being our 103rd guest. It's been an absolute honor and privilege to hear your story, and I wish you great success.
All right. Thank you so much, James. I'm sure we'll connect again. Thank you for what you're doing. It's so needed.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Goodbye.
Hey.
Wow. That was another featured business brought to you by Visibility Impact. If you'd like to be our next featured guest or learn how James Mofat can help you leverage on the art and power of interactive storytelling for your business, reach out and schedule a call now.